Hello, everybody. Jolynn Ledgerwood with Playful Performance here. I'm so excited to have our guest, Gary Ware, the creative catalyst and founder of Breakthrough Play. With over 2 decades of experience at the intersection of business, creativity, and human development, Gary has dedicated his career to helping professionals excel by harnessing the power of play. As a corporate facilitator, keynote speaker, and certified coach, he's partnered with organizations such as SAP, HP, Intuit, and the United Nations System Staff College to transform team dynamics and unlock creativity. Gary is also the author of Playful Rebellion, Maximize Workplace Success Through the Power of Play, where he explores innovative strategies to enhance workplace performance. His unique approach blends applied improvisation, positive psychology, and game design to foster resilient, high-performing teams. Beyond his professional achievements, Gary is recognized for his thought leadership, earning a spot among Culture Amp's top 25 emerging culture creators. Please welcome me and join Gary Ware to our program. Gary, so excited to
Hi.
have you. I'm so glad you're here. I told you earlier that I've been chasing you down because I wanted to have you on my podcast. You were like my star guest. So I'm so glad you're
Here we
here.
are.
Yay!
Yeah. I'm so excited to be here. This is
Yeah,
going to be an
yeah.
amazing chat.
It is, and I hope that we can. We may have to do part 2 if we don't cover everything in our
Right?
time frame. Right? Exactly. I'm fine with that. So tell me more about you. Why did you get in the play workspace? How did that aha moment come for you?
I'd like to say it was one of those brilliant accidents because growing up, I've always been that playful kid. I'm the one that during class, the teacher is going to have to say, hey, Gary, this is nice, but can we save this for recess? And that's why my dad, as a way to get me to focus, he said, Gary, there's a time and place for play. You can play when the work is done. And in school, great. That was awesome. It helped me focused. And then I went on to study marketing communication. So I always thought I was going to be that person in marketing communications. But again, being a playful person, I always bring my playful self into everything that I did. And it wasn't until I experienced, I think it was like my 3rd or 4th burnout before I started realizing something's up here. And I realized like my play drive was essentially extinguished. I was doing all the things that people, said you should do, good job, check, got a wife, check. And you need to move up the corporate ladder, check. But play was something that I was always saving until I thought the work was done. So the thing that rejuvenated me and got me, just back on this path was I took an improv class. And that was the thing that woke me up. And it got me to realize like, wow, this is amazing. And why am I not doing more of this?
That's amazing. So what year, how long ago was that you realized your play was extinguished, that you were like, I'm not in a good place. This is not fun.
Yeah, this was over 12 years ago.
That's amazing.
I took my first improv class back in 2010. And the funny thing is I took an improv class as a way to get better at public speaking. Most people, they like, oh, I'm going to take an improv class because I want to do this fun little thing. Yeah. I was very career focused, public speaking, which it did. And then it did a lot more. And so I was the person who started bringing these improv games to my team. I'm like, hey, yeah, we need to play this game. This is going to be a lot of fun. Because most people, when they think of improv, they think about like they see Whose Line Is It Anyway? And they think it's all about being funny. And, you see some improv and yes, there is humor, but it's not because they're trying to be funny. It's because of the other things. But the improv training is the thing that helps teams collaborate better, helps us listen better. And it's fun. So that was the thing that woke me up. And it gave me something to look forward to. I took as many classes as I could, and my weeks got better just because I had something fun to look forward to.
Right. So I didn't realize we had this in common, but I too was climbing the corporate ladder. I had the kids. I thought that I was supposed to just keep moving to the next level of work. And I realized I don't want to do that. Like I want to just coach and train people that are in it for them, for whichever the end solution needs to be, but that they're going into play and they're going into the experience willingly, not because they have to, because of a corporate mandate. I remember when we would do sales kickoffs, and I was in the cybersecurity tech startup for probably 15 years, 18 years. And I remember being at a sales kickoff years ago and taking sales guys, salespeople that are used to doing their own thing when they want to do it, operating calls, all the things. And you take those people and you sit them at a table in a conference room and expect them to stop everything and just listen to presentations for 3 days. They were bouncing off the walls. And so just on a whim, swung by the Walmart on my way to the second day and bought the little containers of Play-Doh, put one at every seat. And people were like, wait, I was like, it's gonna, instead of them fidgeting with their phones, or maybe they'll use twofold. One, the things that they built were amazing. Like the detail was just so intense. And two, they were more engaged. They sat at the table, they listened to the presenters, they interacted with each other. It just was like, why haven't we been doing this longer and forever? Yeah. So I so appreciate you having that. This isn't working for me. I need to do something different. I love that. So
Yeah. Well, it was an accident. Don't get me wrong. Like, if I wouldn't have taken that improv class, I don't think I would have woke up. It wasn't like I was seeking that out. I was just like everyone else, like that walking zombie. And it was just boom, that thing that jolted me out got me to realize, like, wait a second, there is something better here. And then I was on this quest to get more of that.
Nice. So what inspired you to find and to start up breakthrough play and focus on integrating play into other professional settings?
Yeah. So another, just, the universe just had this plan for me. Once I started doing improv and I started bringing this to people and organizations, I realized their play was the actual answer. We're playing. And so this was just something I was doing for fun. I was exploring the benefits of play, for adults. And, I would bring it into my work. I'm a team lead. I grow teams. I, did all those things. And so my teams were my sandbox. And then I would do these retreats and I would do all those things just for fun. Well, back in 2018. At this point, I am a co-founder of a digital marketing agency. And I thought, like, wow, I have the perfect setup because I have the flexibility and autonomy to go and do all these fun things that fill up my cup. And, and I also can do, good work. Well, my business partner had different plans. It was right after I came back from facilitating this retreat. It was March of 2018. He was like, hey, I think we should go our separate ways. And he owned more of the business than I did. And he bought me out. And in that moment, I was unemployed. And guess what? When it rains, it pours. Because that same day, I kid you not, that same day, 2 hours after we had our little breakup, the landlord called me and my wife and said he was selling the house that we were renting. And we had about 60 days to move. So, yeah, don't know what, it was all the things that could happen. Again, my oldest was about to be 1. My wife is a stay-at-home mom. I'm the only one who works, and I am freaking out because it seemed like everything came crushing down. And so what we ended up doing, we ended up selling everything. We moved in with my parents so I can just sort of get back on my feet and figure out what was going on. And that's where I realized, and actually it was more of a nudge for my wife. She was like, what about this stuff you're doing with play? Like it brings you a lot of joy. Couldn't you get paid, actually get paid for doing this? And so that was the thing that I'm like, oh yeah, all right, yeah, let's figure this out. And so I said 2 years. I'll give myself 2 years to figure out, like, hey, how to make this a sustainable business. And then, as luck would have it, 2020 is when I thought I had it all figured out. And then the pandemic hit. And so then I had to re-figure it out again. But I'm still here. I've adapted. And again, that's one of the benefits of play and playfulness. It helps you be able to deal with uncertainty. It doesn't mean that I don't have those freak out moments, those moments of dread, but you can get your brain in a state where you can be more creative. You can think outside the box.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. On so many levels, the layoff, been there. The what am I doing now? Been there. And you know what? I really enjoy this play and coaching piece. Let's just do that and see what happens. So I'm with you. I appreciate that we have so many things in common. I noticed in your information that you sent that you've worked with organizations like SAP and the United Nations. How has that influenced your approach to corporate facilitation and coaching? Those are big companies.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is no matter what the organization, we can all use play. And it's interesting because I like to say I am like the Trojan horse for play, because in the beginning I was like on this, I was, on my soapbox, and I still have this belief that yes, we all need play and we need to change the way that we work so we can bring more play into the organization. However, people aren't necessarily there yet. I was the person, where I would go and I would talk to a contact and I say, hey, look, I got this amazing program, it's going to be very transformative. And they're like, I can't get my boss to sign off on this to say that we're going to be playing for 2 hours. Like and so again, meeting people where they are, I said, well, you need to help your teams be better communicators, right? Yeah. And we need to work on productivity and stuff like that. Yeah. Those are all the things. Well, all right, cool. It's a training. Yeah, that's great. And I still bring the playful elements in there, and they still get the transformation. And so what I was learning is that most people, most organizations, what they care about is, having high performing teams. They care about, keeping those high performers from leaving. They care about like all those things. And granted, you should, because again, if your organization is not, driving performance, does not have a product that the market wants, you're not going to be in business. The thing is, people, as you said, especially with your sales team, like we are wired for play. Play is in our DNA. And so one thing that I learned with working with companies of all sizes across different continents is that when you bring the spirit of play and you invite people to play, they open up and magical things can happen.
Yeah. Gary, that is such insightful information. Thank you so much. You mentioned in your message just now about instead of just, hey, let me bring play to your work, you have a problem that you need team development, training, etc. Let's do that. And then you bring play to the workplace.
Yes.
For years, I used to teach sales guys about how to sell our products. It was, again, cybersecurity. And it took me getting out on my own. And I used to teach them. We don't talk about us. We talk about them. What problem do they have? And how can we solve it? And if we can't, do we have partners, competitors, whatever that can help them? And so going out on my own, I kept saying, you need to bring play to work. You need to bring play to work. And then I realized that's exactly what I was teaching them not to do. I need to turn it around. And what problem are they having, or what do they need to have done in their organization? If it's strategic, team building, like you said, siloed organization, whatever that looks like to them, how do we solve that problem for them? How can we help them get over that problem? So thank you so much. Yes. Playful Rebellion's your book, key concepts. Yes. Yeah. Tell me about that.
So again, I just have this, I feel like I'm just like bumbling along through life because how that book came to be was during the pandemic. There were so many people that were working more than they've ever worked before, because again, we're at home. There's not much we can do. And we're experiencing even more burnout, even more stress. And that was actually the perfect time to reintroduce play to folks. And so I had this 30-day play challenge where the whole point is to just infuse play and playfulness in everything that we do and see what happens. And I had, I think, over like 400 people join this challenge, and it was awesome. It was gamified. There was points and leaderboard and all this other stuff, and it was great. But here's the problem. If it's not something that you practice time and time again, just like anything, it goes away. We can't just go to the gym one time and expect to be beach ready on that first trip, right? It has to be a practice. And so people kept coming up to me and said, this was awesome. Do you have a reference guide? Do you have something that I can keep with me so I can remember this? Because the challenge was just all videos and whatnot. And after a number of people kept saying that, I said, I think I should probably write a book and take all the stuff that we learn from the challenge and put it into a book so that it can get in the hands of people, so that they can use this as a practice. Because the reason why it's called Playful Rebellion, other than my love for Star Wars, is that we have been conditioned to see play as a frivolous thing. We have been conditioned to work a very specific way. We work. Play is an afterthought. Play is something that we should earn, not something that we deserve. And it's rebelling against the status quo. That is the whole premise. We are rebelling against our sort of nature that we've been conditioned to think that play is second to work. And so that's the whole thing. So I call it an action guide, step by step. Let's go on this journey so that you can infuse play as an adult and reap all the benefits.
So when you ask people what's the opposite of work, they normally always say play. And I'm like, no, the opposite of work is unproductive loafing or whatever you want to call it. But play isn't the opposite. Oh, depression. Thank you.
There's a quote, by Brian Sutton Smith, that says, most people think the opposite of work is play. The opposite of the opposite of play is depression. In that we need to bring play and work. They go hand in hand. And
I like how we're not looking at what's the opposite of work. We're looking at the opposite of play. So if you don't play, we're going to have depressed people. And I preach. I love that. What are your future plans for breakthrough play? What do you envision the role of play involving in corporate environments?
Oh my gosh, this is such an amazing. I haven't had anyone ask this question, so thank you for that.
Really?
I have this big goal of can we get 1 million people transformed and bringing play into their work? So my goal is to be a ripple. Just be a little drop here and there, and infuse play and playfulness, so that they can be an effect on other people. Because true story, I was working with this organization. They are a big sales organization for a national baseball team. And during this session, we did this activity that was supposed to show us that we can't multitask. That was the objective. And not only did it show that, but this one executive, when we were doing the debrief for reflecting on what happened, they were almost in tears because they had this realization that how they are being a leader is completely flawed. Because in this activity, and this is interesting. This is so interesting in this activity because, like I said, it's all about how we can't multitask. So in this activity, your main objective is to listen to a story and be able to tell as much detail as possible. However, the challenge is you're also being asked to do these other activities simultaneously. And then when it's time to, see how much you retained, if you did it right, you have nothing. You have nothing. Matter of fact, it is designed to induce stress into your body. And who would want to induce stress in your body? But the interesting thing about games, when you play a game, you suspend your normal sort of reality for the game. So people are willing to jump into this game, be in a state of stress, and play the game. But then the cool thing is our brains are always connecting the dots. So we're doing this debrief, and they're realizing that game is like them at work all the time. They're like, I thought it was my job to be the traffic cop and check this, but I'm realizing I am being a micromanager. I'm not allowing my team to thrive. And on top of that, I'm not thriving. But here's the thing. They thought that's just how it's supposed to be. So through a simple game, I was able to change someone's perspective of reality, and they were open to it because it became their idea. And then in that moment, the team, had a huddle. We paused, time out, and we worked, they worked on hey, how can we support you? How can we change this? And so that, again, that one little ripple. So now that person is going to be a more effective boss. They're going to have a better effect on their employees, which then is going to, transpire into other things. So that is again, my big vision of bringing play to, again, change the world.
You mentioned just the ripple. And I was telling you before we started recording that my introduction to you introduced me to Jeff Harry, which he's been on my podcast. And then that continues to go to so many other people. So your ripple is working, you are making a difference. You are making a change. People are recognizing and embracing the fun that we can have at work. So I so appreciate your work. What are you most excited about that's coming up? How will you advance, your mission? How do we know when you've hit those million people?
Well, what is very exciting for me is that people are actually more receptive to it. As I was talking about in the beginning, I'm going out. I'm like, I'm scared. I'm like, all right, this is a new venture for me. Is this going to work? And I would be met with so much resistance of like, I don't know if this is good enough. And then even, when people would do it, they're like, well, this worked for this group, but I don't know if it's going to work for us. And then I would go, to a team. And of course, there's the people with the arms crossed, like, what is this? But what I'm seeing now is people are actually, coming to me. It's like, hey, Gary, I heard about the work that you did with this company. We want to bring you in for this. So I'm excited about the things that, the projects that I'm working on now. I'm working with such a broad range of companies. And as someone that is neurodivergent, I have ADHD, so I love variety. And so this is like very stimulating for me. But also I love, again, seeing how we can remix this and get so many different results. Like I told you about that one game that had to do with multitasking. Now, because of that insight that I got, now I use that same game when I do programs for leadership and leadership development. And so I love, again, seeing the little nuances and how we can tweak it over time.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Your approach, is so refreshing, and it's so awesome, is for lack of a better word, just to see that you are out there just advocating for play, and showing the benefits of it. So you just mentioned one like breakthrough aha moment. Are there maybe another one that you can share that was like pretty profound where you saw the success of the program?
Yeah. So emotions are contagious. And so a typical thing is, and it is what it is. I like to say, forced play is not real play. Like, hey, we're all going to do these things. They mean well. A lot of bosses mean well. They're doing the best that they can. And so a lot of times when I'm brought in, it is because it's a team building event, and everyone has had those moments, and they're like, oh, all right, what is this thing? And so this was one of those times where I was brought in, and it was very awkward because there was a person, like, so we're in this, imagine this big conference room, table rounds, people are sitting there. There's this person who's like dead center to me. Like I'm on a raised platform, and he's like in eyesight. We're all doing these activities, and he's just like, like on his computer. And it's just like, I'm like, oh my gosh. And so again, my thing is, I'm not going to go and like say, hey, Jim. Right. Aren't you like, that's not my thing. I'm not here to force someone. I'm going to invite you to play. I'm going to show you the path, but you need to walk through it. And so again, I'm not here to call someone out or anything like that. So I'm just letting it be. But he is like literally just completely ignoring completely. But everyone else is, getting into it. And the vibe of the room is definitely escalating. People are having some fun. And then at one point he like sort of like comes out of his like little cloud of whatever he's doing. And then he like looks around and he notices people are having fun. And then he shuts his laptop, he sets it aside. And then again, I'm not going to call him out. So then we do the next activity. I'm like, all right, pair up this, and this. And so he goes in and he gets in a pair. And then, we're doing some more stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's engaging. Oh my gosh, he's engaging. And then because the way that I do these things is, yes, it is play. Yes, some of these things are so silly, but there is some magical gems in this. After each activity, we do a debrief and we reflect like, all right, what was challenging about this? What did we learn? How did it feel? And more importantly, what are we learning that we can take back with us? Because the cool thing about play is that, and this, some research by a gal, unfortunately, she's passed away before she can finish her research. Her name is Karen Previs. And she was doing research on how we learn. She was working with kids, and she found that to create a new synapse in the brain, it takes about 400 repetitions. However, if you can infuse play, you can shortcut that down to like under 20. And I've seen this time and time again. of doing an activity, someone like learned a new concept, and then I get a call later on and like, hey, look, it was easier for us to apply these things because we had this thing. So anyways, going back to my story, I see this person starting to engage, and I'm not going to call them out. We're just doing the debrief. And then at the end, to see that person have this big aha. And again, they're not saying that, oh, I thought this was crap. But they had this magical moment of like, wow. And then I'm like, ta-da, it works again. So like, I love this, but I get this all the time. This is like one of my favorite piece of feedback. At first I thought this was going to be crap, but then when I dove into it, it was actually a lot of fun and I got a lot out of it. So yeah.
Yeah. And I have that a lot in Lego Series Play. And some of my workshops where people come in, they're like, I'm not creative. I've never played with Lego bricks. I don't want to do. And I like you just give them the space. And those are the ones that end up making the biggest leap to having those realizations, involved, engaged, like encouraging other people to get involved. It's amazing. Those are like my highlight moments where I'm like,
Yes.
So we've addressed the skeptics, especially those executives that are like, we can't play, we have work to do. How do you overcome those? How do you you mentioned earlier about solving the problem of you need training, let's do training. But I'm sure that there are other either executives or higher level that just are like hard no. How do you handle that?
Well, I have to be honest that it's not for everyone. In the beginning, I was the type of person that was like, I would go after the people with the highest turnover rates, and I was like, you need this.
Okay.
Let's work.
Right.
But again, if they're not open to hearing this, it's going to be like pulling teeth. And so then I started shifting to the people that was already bought in, not necessarily bought into play, but bought in to, hey, look, we need to develop our teams. So then I was focusing on, the companies that were like crowned as best places to work and things like that. The ones that have long tenures. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing, again, about this ripple effect, because you work with those people, they're already bought in, they're already, got the momentum, they're already going to see the effects, but people talk. So then I let people be the evangelist for me of, they're going to talk to people who are having challenges, maybe challenges similar to them. And so I've had people, and it was so funny. I'm not going to name names, but it was so funny. I had someone like on my radar, like I would love to work with this, and we had even chatted with a few people and they're like, no. And I had someone contact me. They totally forgot that we had a conversation like maybe 3 years ago. And that's one of the beauties of the pandemic. It like sort of zaps everyone's memory of everything that happened pre-pandemic. Mm-hmm. And they were like, hey, so I got your name from this person. I'm excited to learn about what you do. I think it's going to help my organization. And when they reached out to me, I was like, this person seems familiar. So I'm like looking through, I'm like, oh yeah, I reached out to this person. And they were like, not even interested in the slightest.
Until they heard it from someone else. And then they're like, yes, I have to have you.
It's all good.
Yeah,
again,
I get
it. It's all good.
Yeah. It's kind of like the new restaurant down the street. I don't know if I want to try that, but since you recommended it, let's go.
Yeah.
So let's see. Do you do your workshops yourself? Do you have a team of people that you bring in to help you, or is it just you facilitating?
Yeah. So I like to think of myself as, this is a very nerdy reference, like Rick Fury from the Avengers, played by the amazing Samuel L. Jackson. And yes, I, for the most part, depending on the size of the program, I can do it myself. But for larger programs, I assemble the crew. I bring them in, and I have such amazing relationships with folks that I trust that can deliver these programs to the highest esteem, that I can call people in and we can do stuff. I remember I was working with Jewish Family Services of San Diego, and they I really love working with them because the first time I worked with them, I think was back in 2017, 2018. And their program was called Day of Learning. And it was they shut everything down for a day and everyone came and, they learned together. And then after working with me, the next time they did it, they call it Day of Play. And so I had been working with them off and on over, since 2018. And I remember it was 2019 was a big program. And, I was in charge of helping to put it all together. And we had, I think, 9 different stations that had different things, from crafting to like minute to minute type stuff, to laughter yoga, to like improv, to sort of like challenge station type stuff. And so I brought in the team, and it was such a really cool program to do. It was a lot of fun.
That's amazing. And it made me realize that as entrepreneurs, you don't not only get to do the fun, but you also get to do some of the other things that aren't so fun. What do you do at the end of your day, your week, to decompress and re-energize or de-stress from the sometimes not so fun work things that still have to get done?
So I still do improv. I've been exploring improv for a long time, and I perform improv. So I'm on a team at a theater in San Diego called Finest City Improv. So if you're ever in the area, please come and check it out. And I've been on this team for, like about 5+ years. It's a long time. So we know each other very well. And we perform on Fridays. And for 45 minutes, I am on the stage playing make-believe with some of my closest friends. And all of that stuff just melt away. And then I come out of that like feeling rejuvenated, like I needed that, especially traveling and dealing with all that stuff, and even just being a parent.
Yes, exactly. Especially being a parent, right?
Yes.
It's funny. You just reminded me of part of my story that I was in high school, 9th and 10th grade. I took debate. I did extemporaneous speaking. I did some literature, prose, and whatever. But the second year, my sophomore year, they new to the tournaments that speech classes would have, they introduced an improv class, an improv section that you could compete. And so there were 3 or 4 of us in our group. The name of our group was SRO, for standing room only, and we won. But I remember it being so much fun, and all the other things that we did. They're very, you had to be scripted, and you had to have your notes, and you had to do research, and la la la. But this was just, you go in and you wing it, and it was so refreshing. It was so fun. We had the best time doing this, and thank you for reminding me of that, because I had forgotten about that little piece of my past. Yeah. So, how do you balance creating enjoyable work and productivity and focus? Teach me.
Well, I like to say that they go hand in hand. In that, if you think about flow, so researcher Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, I think I said that right, was the person that coined the term flow. And flow, when you're in a state of flow, you are doing something that is challenging you just enough, where time feels like it's flying like that, and you can just do it just for the sake of doing it. If you think about when you're in a state of play, it's the same thing. And so for me, that's why I like to say play and playfulness, they go hand in hand. If you can look at your work as play, then you can get into that state of flow faster. So that you are challenged just the right amount of stuff. Time flies by like that. And what it's actually doing, it is tapping into your intrinsic motivation. So there's an amazing book I highly, especially for folks that are leading teams and you want a high performing team. It is called Prime to Perform, and is by Neil Dosey and Lindsay McGregor. They talk about intrinsic motivation. And so they say the keys to a high performing team is you have to tap into play, purpose, and potential. And those are the intrinsic motivators. So play, you see the work is play. You see the challenges is something to overcome. You can get into that state of flow. Purpose is the outcome of the work. Wow, we did this work and look at what, like the outcome of what we did, how it impacted other people. And potential, your own potential. Hey, you know what? I'm going to get better at this. And look, I can move up the ladder. So that is intrinsic motivations, all tied to the work. But here's the thing. We have, as a society, focused on extrinsic motivation. And they talk about that in the book. And that is emotional pressure, economic pressure, and inertia. So emotional pressure, you better not make a mistake. Your job's on the line. Economic pressure. Hey, if you do this, you'll get a bonus. Again, it's outside of the work. And then inertia. Oh, we've always done it this way. Now, granted, we wouldn't have done that if it didn't have a purpose. Those extrinsic motivators work in situations where you need very specific results. Like, again, think about an assembly line or something where it's very repeatable. Well, guess what? Even working on an assembly line, we need to be innovative. We need to be able to think outside the box. And if you just focus on the extrinsic motivators, you get people to lose the fun in it. They would do things that they wouldn't normally do. So getting back to your thing about productivity, it's all about creating a space where you can see your work as play and enjoy doing it. So this is where the other playfulness comes in. I like to say, I got this from a very wise person. Maybe you heard of this quote: "For every job that must be done, you add a bit of fun and snap, the job's a game." That's Mary Poppins.
I love it. Thank you.
But that's where it's all about. That's how we can mix the two. They go hand in hand, productivity and play. That's why we say that they should be blended. But here's the other thing. If you're tapped into your intrinsic motivators, you're going to work enough. You're going to work enough, and you're going to realize, you know what? My energy is draining. My focus is draining. You will take those breaks and you will go do those things that are going to revive you, and you're going to come back. But if you're only tapped in, and this is what I like to say, the difference between seeing the world as a proving ground versus seeing the world as a playground. If you're seeing the world as a proving ground, and again, everything's tapped into extrinsic motivators, you're going to work way more than you have to. Yeah. You're going to keep working. You're going to keep working. And, as humans, the more tired we are, the more we're prone for mistakes. But yet, how many times have we said, and I'm guilty of this too, of saying, you know what, let me just push through. Let me just push through. And that is not sustainable. That is not sustainable. That's how we burn out. That's how we hurt ourselves. So
I was waiting for you to say the word burnout because I knew it was coming, because that's exactly what we get to. We're almost out of time for today. So I have already said we have to come back and do round two. I have two questions for you. One is, when was the last time you played with Lego bricks?
Matter of fact, they're gone. Oh, sad times. I have these. So I keep Lego bricks at an arm's length at all times. So I have some right here. And so just yesterday, I did. That is one of the things I tell people. If you are in this state of burnout and you're like, oh my gosh, and people are like, hey, how can I get into play? Do what is called a play history. Dr. Stuart Brown talks about that. Look at a time in your life when you were younger and you played and you didn't really think about stuff. What were the things that you did that brought you joy? And how can you bring that into your now times as an adult in some way, shape, or form, even a little bit? And so when I was younger, I used to play with Legos all the time. And so I was realizing I need more. And that's how I found out about Lego Serious Play. I was like, man, there needs to be more about this. And again, just being curious about stuff. That's for another conversation. But nonetheless, I realized when I'm tinkering with bricks and stuff like that, again, it's very meditative for me. And so I was thinking, all right, what if I just had bricks nearby? And then when I need to take a break, I just grab some bricks. And again, there's no necessary objective. I'm just building just to build. Yep. And so that is part of my playful practice. And so to answer your question, it was yesterday. But I have two kids that also love to play with Legos. And I have to keep refilling my thing because they disappear all the time. Exactly. My office looks like an office for kids. And the things that, I guess, everything's a toy. And so my kids don't know the difference. They come and steal my stuff all the time.
Of course they do. I obviously use Lego bricks as my stress therapy. I love building. Now I'm a by the book person. So I get the box, I have the book, I make sure all the bags are in order, and then I start building. Yeah. And I sort them because I'm a little OCD and a little ADHD. Cool. So it's all cool. Yeah. The people that can, and I've talked to somebody that takes the book and tosses it and then just starts free building. I'm like, oh, what is that lie? I need to.
I can't do that. Don't get me wrong. So when I free build, I it's very abstract. And yeah, there's something satisfying. Matter of fact, I just got a new, it was given to me from a friend. I love that. I'm really into the Flora ones. Yes. Right now. So yes. So I'm also by the book as well. Yeah. If I'm going to build something and keep it somewhere, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So last question. that I didn't even give you any time to prepare for. You
Ooh.
have a toolbox that you've accumulated pieces, different things have dropped in that you save and use when you need or want, or all those things. What is something from your toolbox that you would like our customers or our guests to take with them today? What's the one thing from your toolbox that you would like to share with them to encourage them to whatever, fill in the blank?
Oh, this is juicy.
I know. It's so fun.
I'm glad that you didn't give me time to prep because I would probably overthought this. But
Yes.
the thing that is coming to my heart is, and I talk about this in my book, it's called The Compass of Joy. We all have this compass of joy, and our compass of joy might be a little bit off just because of conditioning, but follow your compass of joy. What is something that will bring you joy that you can just do just because, and let that guide you?
I love that. Thank you so much. I love that. Gary Ware, it has been such a joy. I mean, you're my first podcast that I now have to have round 2 because we didn't cover all the things that we need to cover. So thank you.
Yes.
How do my guests get in touch with you to learn more about you and your services?
Cool. Well, if you're listening to this and you're like, wow,
Yay.
that's pretty interesting, just go to my website, breakthroughplay.com.
Yes.
That's where you can find all of my sort of musings, video recordings of stuff that I did. It has all my socials. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. I'm at Gary Ware, most social platforms, but I encourage you to come and say hi. I love talking about this, and I can talk about it, as you can see, till the cows come home. So yeah, reach out.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll schedule round 2 and finish our conversation. Gary Ware, you're amazing. Thank you so much. Everybody have a great day.
Yay. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. That's a wrap on another episode of Play for Performance. I hope today's conversation sparked some ideas for how you can bring more joy and engagement into your workplace. Remember, transforming workplace culture doesn't happen overnight, but every small step toward play and connection makes a difference. Try one thing we discussed today, even something small, and see what happens. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who could use a little more play in their professional life. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss our weekly conversations with incredible guests who are changing the game of workplace engagement. Have a guest suggestion or want to share your own play at work story? Reach out to me at Jolynn and elevateyourtalent.co or find me on LinkedIn. I love hearing from you. Until next week, keep playing, keep performing, and remember, work doesn't have to be taken seriously to be serious. This has been Play for Performance. I'm Jolynn Ledgerwood, and I'll see you next time.